van die hardrocker. Dat is een autistische hardrocker, die heeft een 17, 18 jaar.
Ja, dat zijn nog meer hoeren.
Oh, oké.
Sarah Moort, dat ben jij dan?
Ja.
Ja, slaat het. Qua geld slaat het ook nergens op.
Maar je hebt het gevoel dat jouw boodschap dan ook beter is in het Engels.
Oké.
Kijk, als het betaalbaar is,
Zullen wij zo beginnen?
dan neem je dat gewoon mee.
Oké, dan ik doe even heel kort even wat iets zeggen in de camera.
Ja.
Nou, we hebben net eigenlijk een beetje bedacht om dit de piramidesessies voor Ruigoord te noemen. Dat Jan en allemaal zijn of haar ding kan over toelichten. Toch? Piramidesessies. Lijkt me goed, hè? Ja.
Helemaal goed, jongens.
Ja, nu een onderwerp wat mij vanwege mijn eigen zeg maar, achtergrond in de GGZ aan de verkeerde kant zou ik maar zeggen. Ja, of juist aan de goede kant. Sorry hoor. Extra, ja, ik lach erop. Extra interesseert. En dat is iemand die volgens mij via een eigen pad, of in ieder geval alternatieve weg vanuit de psychosesferen dingen ervaren heeft. Maar goed, ik geef gewoon het woord aan de persoon zelf. Want wat is uw naam?
Ik ben Robin.
Robin.
Ja. Zal ik gewoon beginnen?
Ja.
Er is een friend of mine hier, dat is een vriend van mij en die praat Engels. Kunnen jullie Engels verstaan?
Oh, you can do it in English if you like. Well, if you do it in English, if you can do it in English, then it is for the world.
Oh, Sarah, is voor jou goed? In het Engels? Ja.
Ja.
Yeah, better.
Okay.
De deur gaat dicht.
Alright. Hi, my name is Robin, and I'm really happy to be here. 10 years ago I had an experience at Ruigoord, at this very place, at this very festival that changed my life. Like some other people, I had an LSD trip here, and during this LSD trip I started hearing voices. And yeah, the months afterwards, you know, the voices didn't go away, the trip didn't end. And because I became very confused and afraid of the voices, I came into a psychosis, and after that in psychiatry, and I was locked up and get more than 1 kilogram medicine, and the voices still didn't go away. And eventually I found a way to cope with the voices by talking with them inside, and this helped me recover, and now for years I'm happy and healthy again. And so I'm really glad to be here. It's like a full circle now. After 10 years ago, you know, I'm at the same place and now I can share my experiences. I also studied psychology, and now that I'm picking up the study again, I'm focusing on the same subject. And my bachelor's thesis was about brain scan research about brain activity during voice hearing. And also I give workshops to people in psychiatry, you know, like the helpers in psychiatry, the psychologists and psychiatrists, and to students too, students who want to become nurses or psychologists. And hopefully this way I can give a contribution, because at this moment in psychiatry the emphasis is on medication, and the medication many times is not pleasant because it has a lot of not nice side effects. And most of the time, like in my case, and many times at least, the voices don't go away. And unfortunately, still, this happens a lot, you know. And if the people don't want the medicines, sometimes they're forced and they're locked up. It happened to me, it happened to other people. So I try to, from the outside in and from the inside out, I want to help change psychiatry to help the people cope with the voices themselves and with their own power, you know, the way they like it best. So that's what I'm going to talk about. If you have questions, you can ask me questions. I made this little booklet. It's a collection of some articles I wrote, and you're always free to contact me if you want. So,
do you have a website or something?
Yeah, I'm working on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this already a URL?
No, not yet, but
okay.
I will give you my email and.
Yeah, because then I can put it in the video, you know, on the YouTube. But we can do that later.
Yeah, I'll make right now I'm setting up a support center for people who hear voices within the psychiatry, and if that works, you know, we'll get a website and a lot of information. but in the meanwhile, I think I make a blog with all the articles I wrote and with the information that may be useful.
You know, what I like about how you use your terms is that you say, I make a website or a support thing for people who hear voices.
Yeah.
So you only mention the name of the symptom, what's happening.
Yeah,
you don't say you don't talk about the labels, or you don't say they're psychotic or schizophrenia or blah blah. You
That's
just
important.
say it's just the thing you observe.
Yeah, that's really important, because for years in Western world, people have seen voice hearing as a symptom of psychosis or schizophrenia. But if you look at the facts, like 1 in 7 people sometimes hear a voice, and they can be on all kinds of conditions. Sometimes when you have a fever, or sometimes when they're scared, or during tripping, or before they go to sleep, or just during the day. And about 1 in let's say 30 people hear voices regularly every day or every week, and about 1 in 200 persons has schizophrenia or psychosis. So there are a lot of mentally healthy people who hear voices, but they don't talk about it. And the only things that we hear via the media and in our environment is when somebody has a lot of trouble with them and ends up in psychiatry. But voice hearing itself is just an experience. It's a special experience, just like seeing visions, and in general I don't believe in diagnoses, like for instance the autism we talked about earlier. These are just people, and they're unique, and they may be behaving differently, maybe feel or experience things differently, but they are just a human like you and I. And that's important in psychiatry, because everything goes down to labels and all, bureaucracy and hierarchy of
money, medication, pharmaceutical. It's laboratory.
Yeah, so it's good to have a neutral language for it, and it's just a special experience, and in this case it's hearing voices.
Do you know the name of Stephen Rees? He has written a book called The Normal Personality.
Alright.
The Normal Personality.
Does it exist?
Yeah, the book exists. You can Google it, and you can buy it via Amazon.com.
Yeah.
And he also states, well, there are all kinds of traits.
Yeah.
You can model people via those characteristics.
Yeah.
And everything is normal, but maybe special.
Yeah.
And Sarah, her website is called Afwijkend, maar gewoon, different but normal.
Yeah.
So it all comes together.
Yeah.
And I hope that with the DSM-5 thing from the psychiatry, that also tends to describing characteristics and not anymore labels. So everything comes together.
Properties, I agree. And I have a saying like, we're all unique, we're all different, that's what makes us the same,
Yeah.
So when we go, what I would like to tell is a little bit of my own story. I would like to tell a little bit about the science thing and the brain activity stuff. And I would like to tell you, and I'm going to start with that, because you asked for a website. In the 80s there was a television program in the Netherlands called Sonja, and it was like interviewing people. And there was this guy from Maastricht, he's called Marius Romme, he's a psychiatrist. And he had a client, and the client said, why don't you accept the fact that I hear voices? Because all the psychiatric people were saying, you hear something that's not there, but the experience is real. These people actually hear something. And then he, for one of the first psychiatrists, he really accepted it, and he started asking, but what do these voices say? And when do you hear it? Is it a female voice? Is it a male voice? What language do they talk? What is your reaction to it? So he was, for the first time, accepted the fact that they hear voices, and he delved deeper into it. But also he was one of the first to suspect that there are many people who hear voices, and also mentally healthy people. And after the program, hundreds of people called, and a lot of healthy people too. And that's why they decided to make a foundation called Weerklank. And this is a Dutch foundation for people who hear voices and see visions. And this has grown out to a worldwide organization, which worldwide is called Intervoice. And there are voice hearers, psychologists, researchers, family members, people who are interested. Everybody is welcome who have an open mind to talk about these things. And this is a really cool organization also, because it's a little bit of human rights organization, because they want to stand up also within psychiatry that, you know, these people have rights, just that they behave different and experience different things. They still have rights and they have wishes in life, you know. So, and I'm part of these organizations. I write articles for the magazine of the Dutch Foundation, and every year there's a congress, and if people are interested, beginning of September there's one in Savona, and it's really cool. Just on the same stage, famous researchers with people who hear voices who tell their story, and afterwards we're partying together. So
That's good.
it's really cool. Yeah. Marius Homme works together with Sandra Escher, and they are like the, how do you call it, the godfather of this organization, and they're both Dutch. And Sandra worked a lot with children who hear voices. Yeah, maybe next is a good idea to explain about voice hearing, what it is, and who hears those voices. Well, voice hearing is like when you hear a voice, but there's not a person there or equipment there that the voice or the sound is coming from. In science they call this an hallucination. And with voice hearing, you hear a voice saying something. It's as simple as that. Well, some people maybe one time in their life hear one short sentence, and other people hear voices all day long. Some people hear one voice, some people hear hundreds of voices. Sometimes it's really soft that you can't even hear what they're saying, and sometimes it's so loud that it's louder than the normal noises in the environment. So it can take many forms in different languages. It can be really meaningful. For instance, there's this story about a girl who is not technical at all, and there was a problem with some kind of engine, and the technical people couldn't find the problem, what was happening, and the voices just explained, well, this is the problem, and if you do this and this, it solves, you know, and yeah, it solved the problem. And of course there's this whole spiritual tradition of people who hear voices like Jesus and like Moses,
like visions and
like
everything.
Mohammed.
What's the difference?
Yeah, so it's in the spiritual or religious circles, you know, it's one of the key features of a spiritual experience that you see and experience things differently and hear differently. And so these voices can then say meaningful things, and sometimes the person doesn't understand at all what they're talking about. And sometimes, you know, even the syntaxis, the grammatica doesn't make sense. But
can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
Does it sometimes happen that, you know, instead of you hearing the voice, you actually speak out what that person is saying?
Yeah, that can happen.
Like a medium.
Like a medium, or in psychiatry, or you could say multiple personality kind of thing. Yeah.
That can be a different. That's what I was just talking about. You've got energy from outside.
Yeah.
People who are dead and have unfinished business to that.
Yeah.
Imagine that can be a voice. It can also be a part of you, like a little small child who had a trauma, didn't grow up, and that can be also one of your inner voices.
Yeah, that's exactly true. Yeah. Yeah, but the key feature of voice, because you know, a lot of people, they talk inside when they think.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, everywhere. Yeah,
discussions all over.
Discussing blah 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 blah. That's also a voice.
Yeah, and that's also a voice, but this is the voice you intentionally use, you know. So the difference with the voice hearing is that they come spontaneously. It doesn't take effort. You don't initiate it yourself. You don't control it yourself. It just comes to you.
It takes over.
Well, it just comes to you, and when sometimes it can take over, that people are not conscious of their own stuff, their own personality, and that happens too. In psychiatry, they call it dissociation, you know.
Yeah, in psychiatry, but in regression and reincarnation therapies, you've got like an aanhechting. That's something who's like in your outer side energy, and you also